The plasma bolt screamed through the air with a sound like tearing metal. Sergeant Mara Venn didn't think, she moved. Her body crashed into Kor, the smallest of the Raxian cubs, sending them both tumbling behind the broken transport hull just as superheated energy carved through the space where the cub had been standing. The impact drove the breath from her lungs. Pain blossomed across her left side, hot and fierce. Mara looked down to see the edge of the plasma bolt had caught her anyway, searing through her tactical vest and into her ribs. The smell of burned flesh and synthetic fabric filled her nostrils. "Sergeant." Kor's voice was high-pitched, barely controlled. The cub's 6 eyes were wide with terror, their fur standing on end across their small frame. At barely 3 cycles old, Kor was the runt of Ambassador Threll's litter, always trailing behind the larger siblings, always the last to eat, always the quietest. "Stay down," Mara hissed through gritted teeth. Another bolt hammered into their cover, sending molten droplets of metal spattering across the rocky ground. She could hear the heavy footfalls of the Krell raiders advancing, their guttural voices calling coordinates to each other. This was supposed to be a routine diplomatic escort. The Raxian delegation had been traveling to the neutral zone for peace talks when the Krell ambushed them in the mountain pass. Now Ambassador Threll lay motionless 30 meters away, and her cubs were scattered among the wreckage. Mara's tactical display showed red everywhere. Her team was pinned down or worse. The Krell had numbers in position. Standard protocol said to call for extraction and hold out. But the cubs couldn't hold out. They were children, barely trained in survival, let alone combat. "How bad?" Kor asked, pressing their small clawed hands against Mara's wound. The cubs' touch was surprisingly steady despite their fear. "Bad enough," Mara admitted. The world swam slightly, her vision tunneling at the edges. "Blood loss," her combat implants warned her. "Listen to me, Kor. When I move, you run for that ridge line. Don't look back. Get to the emergency beacon, we passed a click back." "No." The word was flat, emotionless, strange, coming from a voice that had been trembling moments before. Mara turned to look at the cub properly. Something had changed in Kor's expression. The fear was still there, but underneath it, something else was crystallizing, something cold and ancient. "That's an order." "Cub," Mara said. "You took the hit for me." Kor's multiple eyes were fixed on her wound, then lifted to her face. "Humans don't do that. Everyone says humans are soft, weak, that you only care about your own pack." Another plasma bolt struck nearby, showering them with debris. Mara could hear the Krell getting closer, their heavy armor clanking against stone. "Everyone's wrong about a lot of things," Mara said. She checked her rifle. Half a charge pack left. "Maybe enough. Now move before—" "My mother is dead." Kor said it simply, stating a fact. "My siblings are scattered. But you, a human, you stepped in front of death for me. The smallest. The weakest." "You're not weak," Mara said automatically. She'd spent 3 weeks with this delegation, watching Kor trail behind, always overlooked. But she'd also seen the cub's eyes, always watching, always learning, always thinking. "You're small." "That's different." Kor made a sound somewhere between a purr and a growl. In Raxian culture, Mara knew, the sound meant something like understanding or acceptance or decision. "My people have a saying," Kor said quietly. The cub's claws extended, small but razor-sharp, designed by evolution for hunting in their homeworld's dense forests. "The smallest hunter strikes from where you cannot see." Before Mara could respond, Kor moved. The cub's small size let them slip through a gap in the wreckage that Mara's human frame could never fit through. She saw a flash of gray fur, heard a surprised shout from a Krell warrior, then a scream, cut short. "Kor!" Mara tried to rise, gasped as pain lanced through her side and collapsed back against the hull. The Krell voices changed pitch, became confused, then angry. More screams, the sound of weapons fire but not directed at her position. Mara's tactical display showed the Krell formation breaking apart, warriors turning to face threats from unexpected angles. Then she heard it through her comm unit, Kor's voice, but it wasn't calling for help. The cub was using the emergency frequency, broadcasting on all Raxian channels. "This is Kor, cub of Threll," the small voice said, and now there was no tremor in it at all. "The Krell have killed my mother. They have scattered my siblings. But a human, Sergeant Mara Venn, took a plasma bolt to shield me. She stepped between death and the smallest of us." A pause. In the distance, Mara heard engines, Raxian engines. The rest of the delegation's security forces, responding to the emergency signal. "The Krell think humans are weak," Kor continued, and Mara could hear something in that young voice that made her blood run cold. Not fear, but promise. They think we judge by size. They're wrong. Sergeant Venn taught me that protecting the smallest isn't weakness. It's what the strong do. More engines now. Dozens of them. The Krell were shouting, trying to organize a retreat. I am the smallest, Kor said softly, and Mara realized the cub was now crouched beside her again. Small hands pressed against her wound, applying pressure with surprising skill. But I'm Raxian, and the human protected me. So now, the sound of landing craft filled the air, and through her fading vision Mara saw them. Dozens of Raxian warships. Descending like vengeful angels, Kor's 6 eyes met hers, and the cub's voice was almost a whisper, but it carried the weight of an oath written in blood. Now we're going to hunt them all. The last thing Mara saw before the medics arrived was Kor standing guard over her, small and fierce, claws extended, while the Raxian fleet turned the mountain pass into a killing ground. The smallest hunter, she thought as darkness took her, strikes from where you cannot see. And humans, she realized, had just taught the Raxians something about loyalty that the galaxy would never forget.